Good morning, my little early birds. How are you? You know, that's a good thing to think about, right? As soon as we start, isn't it? How are you? How are you doing? I mean, not just really ask it and go on, but how are you doing? I realized this morning, actually, I think I realized yesterday, and not for the first time, but, you know, again, that wow, a few things. Number one, it can be really hard for some people to do everyday things, right? And I think in some ways, that's the reason why me even, do things like this, right? It keeps me busy. Maybe I'm talking in a mirror. That's what my dad used to say. Annette, you're just talking in a mirror. Maybe I'm talking in a mirror. But I don't think I am. And I realize though that everybody has something on their minds, and it's good to keep busy, right? It's good to keep busy. We keep busy 3 days a week here. But it's also good to have a lot of family time, a lot of time with people that you love and people who love you. And you know that in your heart. You know who loves you inside your heart. You know, I have, but that's about the only thing that I know. I don't know what's inside anyone else's heart. There have been people, I feel like I've made a lot of sacrifices, but there have been people who have made a lot of like doing this class, right? Like doing this class and getting up, and maybe I'm only talking in a mirror, right? So I feel like I've made a lot of sacrifices. But then I think about all the other sacrifices that other people have made, and I think sometimes they're bigger. Sometimes they're way bigger. Like for example, sometimes I think it's hard for kids to get up and go to school, right? I think it's hard to get up and go to school. And I think we don't realize as big people how frightening the world can be. And especially if you're a real thinker. If you're a real thinker, if you're a real, and most kids are, most kids, that's what you do. That's what you do with your time. You think. And so I'm hoping that maybe I can fill your minds a little bit with things to think about that will help your mind, your body, and your spirit. Oh, how is that? I think that was pretty good. No script though. Let's get started, early birds, with making that mind and that body and that spirit healthy. People said we can't do it, but we can do it. We know how to do it. When we don't know how to do it, what do? We make flowers. That's what we do. We don't know how to do it, make things better. We make flowers, or we buy flowers, or we grow flowers. That's what we do. We just be awesome. That's what we do. We just be awesome. And a lot of times, big people don't think little kids are awesome. Well, you know what? You can come here. I've always thought little kids are awesome. I think they love more than anybody else on the planet. And I think that makes you awesome. You love puppies more than anybody else on the planet. You love your moms more than anybody else on the planet. You love to draw more than anybody else on the planet. You love to skip more than anybody else on the planet. You love to run more than anybody else on the planet. You love to eat cereal more than anybody else on the planet. It's just amazing to me. All the things that you realize is wonderful about this world. And sometimes, because this morning I was feeling kind of bad. I really, really was. I know. How could she feel so bad and then sprout flowers out of her mouth? Yeah. That's what I'm doing. Even with this sort of wild hairdo. Because that's what we have to do to keep a healthy mind and body and a healthy spirit. That's what we have to do. We have to sprout flowers. Oh, you know what's interesting? Or sprout love. I was going to get a tattoo here. And the tattoo, but I don't have any. I just wanted to tell you because that reminds me of that. And it was going to be flowers. Of course it was going to be flowers. What else would it be? Hello, do you know me at all? It's going to be flowers. But in the stem, and this didn't come from me, it came from somebody else. In the stem, it was going to say, love sprouts. I have no tattoos. But if I did, and you know, my sister has a tattoo with the flowers. That looks just like it. Just like what I had in my head. I told her. I said, that's the tattoo I would have gotten. Had I gotten a tattoo. Except for what it said, love sprouts. That's what we do. What if we changed... What if we changed our classroom name to Little Sprouts? Who likes to be an early bird? Nobody. You know what? That is a great thing to change with this school year. With the new school year starting, that would be a great thing to change. We're going to call this classroom Little Sprouts. Oh my gosh. Oh, I love it. Shall we get started? Actually, I don't have, because I really did have a hard morning. I don't even know if you could tell. I know I'm looking in the mirror to see how I look. Hope you guys are okay with that. It's such hard times, and nobody does it better than Little Sprouts. Nobody does it better than Little Sprouts. In my mind, I'm picturing the flower that comes through the crack in the cement, right? Nobody does it better than Little Sprouts. Lucy. As if they haven't been out there all year. Come here, honey. She is just a little teeny weeny warrior for me. She is. I think about all that she's done for me. I do. Getting a pet that you love, there's not a thing better in the world. You have to take care of the pet, and you have to love the pet. And sometimes little kids they have a lot of other things to do besides loving a pet. And so sometimes having a pet isn't a good idea if you don't have time to love that pet. We've had pets, and my kids, I felt it was their pet. I didn't buy a pet for me. It wasn't my pet. Although it's not that I didn't like the dogs, right? But I did buy them for the kids, and I didn't love those dogs. Not like I love Lucy. Like, Lucy is mine. Lucy's my dog, right? That's the kind of dog you need to get. Not a pet that's shared, but a pet that you love and want to take care of. That's the kind of pet that you need to get. Okay? All right? Yeah. And if you're not ready to really love a pet, and kids have all kinds of love, but sometimes no responsibility. Gotta take care of that pet, right? Every day, all the time, every day. What if somebody didn't take care of you for one day? What if somebody didn't take care of you for one day? Nobody around to take care of you for one day. How frightening! absolutely frightening, right? What if somebody wasn't around to take care of that pet for one day? And what if that pet got really frightened, right? I'm working up like, am I going to talk and then like do this? Or I don't even know. Let's keep going. Except for the fact that I do actually need my glasses because I can't even see that stuff right over there. Apparently time is not going backwards yet. I keep waiting for this revelation on the body to like, whoa. Let me get my face off of here. And it looks like we might be back. Yeah, there we go. Okay, it looks like we're back. All right, so and now I'm talking again, so I don't want to whatever have the voice that somebody thinks is really funny because they have a third grade sense of humor. My goodness gracious, I thought it was my dad, and I know it's not. So that's good news. That's good news. Yeah. Yeah, that's some good news. There are some other people, right? So in the gene pool, apparently, the blue eyes. Hey, early birds. That was my thought. What? You want me to finish that thought? Well, I don't want to finish that thought. That thought just popped right into my head. I was just thinking about something that we're going to learn when we start learning a little bit more about genetics. It's making me think about, somebody did a blue-eyed, brown-eyed kind of thing, and it just popped into my head. So let's keep going with this. So we are not going to get a chance to diagram a sentence today, likely, because I am really, as you can see, but that being said, I still have to get up my PowerPoints, which I was going to do before I got on. And then I was like, what am I doing? Why don't I just get on? And then I got on, and then I'm like doing this. But we had to have a little bit of a discussion about today, mainly because it isn't in my mind like our typical day. All right, so I've done some improvements on this. Let me, I'm going to play you your ABC song because that's always great filler. So we're going to do the ABC song while I go and get some of these slides up that I didn't get up for you. All right, hold on.
W
Okay, I know you have a blank screen over here. And as I've said, there we go. Well, at least you don't have a great blank screen. We are going to get this info up and like, that the nun over there at the Catholic school used to say, 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Interesting stuff that's going through my mind. Well, I'm trying to get this stuff done, though. All right, there we go. Okay, sorry, but my brain is moving slow today. Actually, that's not true. My brain is moving too fast today, is what's going on. It's going in a lot of different directions, and I wasn't even sure if I was going to get on this morning. But I thought in my head, because sometimes I feel like I'm talking into a mirror. So I thought in my head, well, what do you want to do? Even if I was just talking in a mirror, what do you want to do? That's what I thought. I did. And I thought, I want to get on and I want to talk to my early birds or my little sprouts. How about that? I want to talk to my little sprouts. So as we move into this new school year, we are changing early birds cuz we like birds. We love bird watching. We do. I love to bird watch. I really really do. But birds are a little bit, I don't know. I like flowers a little better than birds. I don't know. How could I say better? They're just different, right? I just like them in different ways. And so now we are going to have sprouts. We're going to start thinking more in line with flowers instead of in line with birds. All right? Because, even in the classroom, they used to call the kids early birds, and everyone knew the early bird robins were better than the sparrows, were better than the, whatever. And that's just not right, is it? That's what made me think about those blue eyes earlier. That's what, when I said that just a little bit ago, that's what made me think about that, right? The early birds sometimes are made to feel, sometimes whenever we have like symbols for a group, that makes us feel, if we're not part of that group, it makes us feel bad. So sometimes when you put symbols like flags, borders, anthems, it kind of sometimes gets us all riled up for us, which is good, but not them, which isn't good, right? Holy mackerel. If you, daddy, did that, I'm just like, what? Did you know what democracy really meant? And is that guy just basically saying he's you? I don't know. Who even knows? I don't know. Life can be a mystery. I know. Sounds like she's talking in a mirror again. Let's do something today, shall we? Besides daydreaming. Okay, so we've been through all of this. What I want to do is I actually did do a little prep here, more than a little prep, but I wanted to do a couple reminders with some worksheets on these verbs. So we've got action verbs and we've got linking verbs. Yeah, I'm thinking. And so what I have here for you is I have some worksheets. If you remember, we did these worksheets, but it's a really good reminder if you didn't do the worksheets in the first place. Are you with us? Or do you have to go back and learn more about verbs? So, and nouns, right? So here we worked on this worksheet that was noun or verb. And then we talked about simple verbs, present tense simple verbs. And we are learning then what is grammatically correct when we're using our verbs. All right? So we're learning what's grammatically correct when we're using our verbs. So we had two worksheets on present tense simple verbs. We talked yesterday about what a simple form of a verb is. Like run would be the simple form of the verb run. But we could have ran, we could have running, right? We could have will be running, has run a race before, right? So we've got all kinds of ways that we can conjugate. That's what we call by changing the tense and changing that verb tense. We call that conjugating that verb, changing that verb tense. We have all kinds of ways we can change that verb tense. So we want to sort of get used to the language a little bit, right? Now, we're getting deep into grammar language. We're getting a little bit deeper, and when we start talking about participles, I promise you, I've been up 3 nights going, I don't get it. I just don't get it. A participle is a verb form. That's it. But it's not acting necessarily as a verb. And that's what makes it hard to understand. So I got some other examples as well. This is the last page of our verbs before I get into the participles. All I'm saying is it can get confusing, especially when we begin to learn the language of grammar, right? Right? It gets confusing. For us to have to be experts, I can grammatically correct a college student's papers. But that doesn't mean that I can tell you what a participle is exactly. I can't. It's not necessary for me. I can also write, right? I've written, I haven't written a book yet. I don't know if I'll ever do that. I don't know. I have a lot of other people who enjoy writing. I'm not the person who enjoys writing, right? So, what was I going to say about writing? Why did I get into writing? I can write. I know how to write as well, but it doesn't mean I can fully explain to you what a participle is. I don't need to. I'm going to tell you what it is as best that I can. I'm going to give you all the information that you need to learn in our Little Sprouts class. that you're going to need to learn to be able to be a college professor and write great papers or even books. Okay? And you don't need to know what a participle is. I'm quite certain that there are many authors, just like there are musicians who can't read music, there are many authors who don't know what a participle is, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that you've got an engine full of steam because you know what a participle is. Nevertheless, there's some heavy duty thoughts going on right now between all the things that have been going on, and I've been thinking, and it made me also think that sometimes the trouble with kids going to school isn't that they need a good breakfast, is it? It's that they need to get some of those thoughts off their minds. And sometimes school does that for them, right? Sometimes school gets some other thoughts off their mind. And if they didn't have that, they might not be able to think about anything else. I've realized that. I've realized that some people have a hard time thinking about anything else. And maybe sometimes a job like roof laying, for example, because they're roofing over there, it cannot force you to have to get that stuff out of your mind, right? You don't have to get that stuff out of your mind. It's going to come up. But if all I'm doing is laying roof, that's okay. It can come up. That thought can come up if that's all that I'm doing, right? Were you Moses? I mean, honestly, that's just amazing when I think about it, right? That's amazing. But I never heard you stand up for people, so I don't know. We've got to stand up for people. Somebody's laying a roof because they have so much on their mind that they can't think about anything else. And we've got a world full of people that's happening to. We've got to stand up for people. Maybe it's not so important that we know what a participle is. Maybe it's more important that we stand up for people, that we get to know our families, that we get to know what love really is. Maybe that's the most important thing. But I'm going to help you learn what a participle is, not because it's important, but because knowledge is. Not more important than family, not more important than a lot of things, but knowledge is important. It is. Don't let anybody tell you it's not important. Knowledge is important. It opens up your eyes to the world, and it opens up your eyes, more importantly, to other people. And maybe, and to more knowledge, because maybe you like knowing what a participle is. Maybe you like knowing that. So then it's important to you, right? Okay. Let's keep moving. So, on our slide here, we've talked about action verbs and linking verbs. That's not the one I wanted here, but it doesn't matter. I can't find my slide. I am moving along. There we go. So we've talked about action verbs and we've talked about linking verbs, right? And so, as a reminder, these pages change. I changed. It doesn't matter. As a reminder, I put these worksheets up there. The worksheet that we did not get to is this action linking verb worksheet. We didn't get to this worksheet, okay? I'll have somebody edit that out. Woo! Woo! It's difficult right now for me. There has been more going on in my life than I have ever had ever going on. And so that's what I'm talking about. I was really, really thinking this morning about my little sprouts. I was thinking about my little sprouts this morning and how much you must have on your mind. If I have this much on my mind and I have a hard time pulling back my wandering mind, if I do, and I've had a lot of practice at it, then you probably have a really hard time bringing back your wandering mind as well, even a much harder time than I do. So that's what's going on today right now. I'm having to take a lot of time. I see something falling down there. I have to take a lot of time bringing back a wandering mind right now. Okay, so in my success in doing so, let's get started over here, or let's keep moving. Okay, so I changed this now, this slide, to better reflect just something I'm talking about, which is just simple verb tense. Hold on. I had other verb tenses on this slide before, but it was mixing up different kinds of verb tenses. So here is an example of just simple verb tenses. Present, past, and future. I always start with the present, and actually, grammatically, most of the literature starts with the past. And now I see, time-wise, you would start with the past, then go to the present, and then go to the future. I don't know why I start with the present, then go to the past, and then go to the future. So that's the way I list my verbs, is all that I'm saying there. All right, or list my examples, starting with what's happening right now. Action that is happening now in the present. Casey runs through the park looking for her dog. Now, it can be I run through the park, right? So it depends. I probably took it off there, but here. The verb tense is dependent on the person, right? So this runs here is still a present tense verb, but I might see the word run as being a present tense verb depending on my subject. If my subject is a first person subject, I will say I run or we run. If it's a second person, I say you run. But when it's a third person, I have subject verb agreement. And so it is Tom runs, Sue runs, the cat runs, or in this case, Casey runs. So it's still a present tense verb. The present tense verb, simple present tense, is just dependent on first person, second person, or third person. Okay? The past, action that happened before right now. They pulled the cake out of the oven too late. All right, so past, simple past is pulled. Future action will perform. Future action needs an auxiliary verb. And in fact, that is simple future tense. Now, what I want to do is I want to add a window here for you. Not that one. Give me. I'm not seeing what I want to put up here. Here are some very good examples of verb tenses and timelines that are associated with those verb tenses. I have to open this up so that I can see it a little bit better. So there, all the way to the left, we have simple verb tenses, right? All the way to the left, we have simple verb tenses. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to show this to you differently. I'm not sure why this isn't showing up here. I want to show this to you a little bit differently. There we go. It just wasn't showing up was the problem here. And I don't know why. So there are our simple verb tenses. Now, this is an excellent chart to show you, and maybe this interests you so that you understand these different simple verb tenses compared to progressive and compared to perfect verb tenses. All right? So what verb tenses have to do with is, I should have called this verb tenses instead of calling this. Can we diagram a sentence? Because apparently, no, we can't. Not in today's class anyway. So I'm going to change that. Verb tenses. Maybe it interests you, these verb tenses, based on it's interesting the timeline that they are using. So you can see that is what is distinguishing the different verb tenses. Let me get my highlighter here. Here you can see that the verb tense in the past here shows that we complete an action or a state of being in the past, right? Now, when we go to the present, we have a different timeline. The timeline in the present is repeated action or state of being. Ken walks to school every day. Ken walks. We could just say Ken walks. That's a repeated action over time. Ken is. That's a repeated state of being over time. See the X's that they have there in the timeline there? Those X's are showing that Ken's walk continues over time. That's a simple verb tense in the present. Let's move down now to the future here. We can see they also had a second one, a verb of being. Ken is smart. It continues over time, right? Now let's take a look at the future here. Ken will walk to school tomorrow. And we can see in the timeline here that the action or state of being, it will happen. See the X over here on the timeline? The X is in the future. So that tells us something about simple tense verbs, right? Simple verb tenses. We can see in the middle here, the middle chart that we have here, they are calling those progressive verb tenses. And we can see that progressive, we have past, present, and future progressive. And we can see that we also have helpers there. Was talking, am talking, will be talking, depending on if it's in the past, in the present, or in the future. And you can see all the way to the right, we have perfect verb tenses. Perfect verb tenses in the past, in the present, and in the future. So, right now, we just want to focus on simple verb tenses, all right? And in fact, we probably will not go to progressive verb tenses and perfect verb tenses any further than what you see right here that we're doing. This is really an intense English grammar when you begin to learn all of these different kinds of verb tenses. You're talking about some real intense grammar that you're learning. We don't have to go that deep into grammar, but we do want to have confidence in our understanding of grammar so that we can communicate. That's it. That's what we want to do. We want to feel and actually really communicate well to others. Okay? All right. And that's supposed to be that could be the extent of our understanding of English. Now, we are out of time, and as you know, I'm usually adjusting. Remember, if I were in a classroom, we would have a break in between, well, classes, whatever. But I would be putting up charts, and I would be getting these charts or overheads or whatever, all of these kinds of things, right, which take a little bit of time, even here when we're performing it live for you, right? Sometimes things don't just go as smoothly as I would like live. And as you can see, we really did not get through a lot more information. But I do hope that you realize that in our Little Sprouts class, I don't know if I call it little, yeah, I think I will. I don't know. We'll see. Adults can come to this class, which is why I called it early birds instead of something little. I didn't want to give you the impression that this class was for little people. I want to give you the impression that adults can be learning, and they may be interested more in learning those more complicated verb tenses here, right? They might be more interested in learning about progressive verb tenses or perfect verb tenses. So these classes are clearly not just for young people, I hope, no matter what. So that's the reason why I did call it early birds. I don't know. Are we going to keep calling it early birds? I do like getting up and ready and in action earlier rather than later. I do. I like getting up earlier rather than later. So let me just see what I have next if I can get to something else. I don't know why. Oh, this is great. I'm glad that I did that. So before we exit here, I want you to take a look at those sentences there. Casey runs through the park looking for her dog. They pulled the cake out of the oven too late. Tom and Jerry will perform next. Can you tell me where the subject is in each of those sentences? And this is going to be, so actually we are starting to get the diagram. This is the very beginning of diagramming a sentence. Are there any pronouns? Do you see any pronouns there? Where are the nouns? Are there Are they proper nouns or are they common nouns? Are they proper or common? Where are the nouns and are they proper or common? Are there auxiliary verbs? I just put auxiliary verbs there. Are there auxiliary verbs? I'm looking to see because I also had some information on incomplete sentences, which we didn't get to today either. So our weeks are slow. Our days are slow. We only have small chunks of information sometimes that we get through in the early bird classroom. But that's okay. You practice this. It's okay, Dr. Feravich, that you didn't get through that much. It's okay. It is. Because you know what? You can practice these things. And let me tell you something. If you take a look at that chart and understand this chart, if you want to learn more, because Dr. Feravich, talking in the third person, because I didn't get to enough information for you, study this. How about you study that if you didn't get enough information, right? There we go. Now we got the whole thing in there for you. Study that if you didn't get all the information that you need, want, and desire. Okay, that's all that I have for you today. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. Thank you so much for joining me here in the classroom with the teacher.